7 years old. We took the train to visit relatives in Oregon. In Oregon. I don't know. I've never called it Oregon before. But this is Diane Bush, Diane Mish Bush of Steamboat Springs, who's challenging Scott Tipton. Scott the Wretch Tipton. So in her own words, when I was 7, we took the train to visit relatives in Oregon, a trip my mother had taken every summer when she was growing up. I remember pressing my face to the window for my first glimpse of the Rockies. Finally, there they were. No poetry, no stories, no pictures could do the mountains justice. Then and there I decided I would live in the mountains. That goal was intensified the next summer when we took the train to Glacier National Park, where I first hiked on single-track trails. I first skied when I was 15, and for the rest of my life, skiing has been my deepest joy.
We live in the most beautiful district in the country. All you have to do is step out the door to see spectacular public lands, productive family agriculture, and hardworking, caring, compassionate neighbors.
The Pisceance, the Picciance, the Pisceance Basin. You have this big area, this big geographic area, a geological structural basin in northwestern Colorado in the U.S. It includes geologic formations from Cambrian to Holocene in age, but the thickest section is made up of rocks from the Cretaceous period. The basin contains reserves of coal, natural gas, and oil shale. A shark's teeth is literally as hard as steel. Coal, natural gas, and oil shale. This is the Western Slopes. The 3rd Congressional District is the entire western portion of Colorado. The most beautiful area, the most beautiful district in all the U.S. It's the Western Slopes of the Rocky Mountains. And it's on average, elephants sleep for about 2 hours per day. Hey, did you get your 2 hours? Yeah, of course. I'm an elephant. The reason why I mentioned the Pisceance Basin, and I'm going to Google it to be able to pronounce it. So the Piscean Basin, Piance. That's how the locals pronounce it. The Piance Basin. However you want to call it, whether you want to call it the Pisceance or the Piance, the A in what sounds like so the pronunciation is like what? So whatever it's called, the main thing that I wanted you to know was that it had natural gas, and it had coal, and it had oil shale. And why is that important? Well, Scott Tipton is being paid by the SG interest, the Southern gangsters, the Southern Texas gangsters. And they care about the natural. There's no year zero. There's one AD and there's one BC. There's no year zero. It does not exist. Hey, remember year zero? Yeah, that was the year I was born, 1982. I was 0 years old. I wasn't born and I was 1 year old. Polis, he's put out a lot of Facebook ads. He says that together we're going to establish freedom of mobility with the Front Range Rail. So he wants to bring high-speed trains here to Colorado, which, let's get high-speed everything, right? Not just trains. Let's get some high-speed electric cars, high-speed solar-powered cars. Let's get some high-speed airplane cars. How come we don't have flying cars yet? My God. Colorado has 7 districts, and the district that Pueblo County is in, Pueblo County, Pueblo City, both municipalities, both jurisdictions, both legal entities, are in the 3rd Congressional District. So Scott Tipton is a Republican from Cortez, Montezuma County, which would be the bottom left of Colorado, the bottom left corner of Colorado. So Scott Tipton, he's a pottery expert. He's a Republican from Cortez, Montezuma County, and he's currently the incumbent. And the challengers, you have Diane Mitch Bush of Steamboat Springs announced in July that she would be running against Tipton. fix Colorado's crumbling roads and highways. So he's for public spending. He wants to take care of our roads. Bring high-speed internet to every single fucking community. Yes, of course we need high-speed internet in every fucking community. Jared Polis in another Facebook ad said, huge news. Colorado is already leading the way in manufacturing clean energy technology. As governor, I will commit to building on this progress. We can have 100% renewable energy. Oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen make up 90% of the human body. 90% of the human body is made up of hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, and carbon.
And innovative small businesses. But over the last decade, we in rural Colorado have been struggling to get by with the lack of economic opportunities and educational opportunities, rising costs of living, especially soaring healthcare costs. These have kept us from fully sharing in Colorado's unprecedented economic growth. We need a representative in Washington who understands the issues we face every day. Someone who will stand up for Colorado's way of life. Someone who will listen to us.
Surprised that SG Interest, who only gives a shit about natural gas and oil anyways, would be in the pissant fucking basin. Let's agree, let's just go with the proper pronunciation. I hate when locals want to fuck up the name of something and try to pretend like they're smarter than you because they fucked up the name. Louisville, no, it was named after King Louis XVI, which makes it Louisville. Like Louis the 16th. Why don't we just say King Louis the 16thville? Or let's just call it King Louis the 16th City, because that's what we've been saying the whole goddamn time. Or change the fucking name if you don't like it. But going, the way it's really pronounced, Louisville, you didn't know it's Louisville? It was sure the fuck is. You ain't from around here, are you? It's Madrid, Versailles, the heart of the western slopes, the piss-ass basin, just the heart of the western slopes. You know who's interested in that? SG is interest. The SG Interest. What a boring, bland name. My God, think about all the crimes you could commit under a name like SG Interest. Who are you mad at? The SG Interest people. What are they into? Well, they have interest, and they like SG, they're about S. So their primary oil and gas operations are in the Pissant Basin of Colorado, the San Juan Basin of New Mexico, and southeast Texas. The Pissants, we're going to find out after this. But in this basin, in this region, you have a shit ton of coal, you got a shit ton of natural gas, and you got a shit ton of oil shale. How come the people don't get that shit? Why do these four guys out of Texas? Steamboat Springs is in Routt County, so you have somebody from the northernmost part of the district running against somebody from the southernmost part of the district. Pueblo traditionally has been left out in the cold. It almost looks like it was gerrymandered to nullify Pueblo to never ever get a Democrat or progressive in power. So we need some representation, and I don't believe that the 3rd District is as rock-solid Republican as people are making it out to be. Scott Tipton won by 56%, 53%, 50%. He can be beaten. These are not landslide victories. He is not Mr. Charisma, and all of his policies are atrocious. You had somebody that ran, then they dropped out. All we have now is Carl Hanlon and Diane Bush. 2 Democrats, 1 Republican, no independents running for the 3rd Congressional District for U.S. Diane Bush, okay? Diane E. Mish Bush is an American politician, a former Democratic member of the Colorado House of Representatives. She was in there for 5 years, the last 5 years, the legendary 5 years of when Colorado transitioned from being a anti-marijuana state, a marijuana prohibition state, to a freedom is now legal. You have a right to your own body in Colorado when it comes to marijuana. Diane E. Mish Bush has been the person who's been writing that shit in the law. She did say she was listening to Jeff Sessions. He's got some logical concerns, but Jeff Sessions is a fucking cunt. He's a piece of shit. He's going to try to fuck over the marijuana industry. Fuck everything. Fuck Jeff Sessions. He doesn't come into Colorado. We voted our own states' rights. This Confederate fucking Beauregard piece of shit, he's for the Confederacy, but he's not for Colorado. The piece where I highlight this Carl Hanlon. I'm not for sure who he is. He's, some guy. But Diane Bush, right now, vote for Diane Bush. Diane Bush is a million times better than Scott Tipton. She represented Colorado House District 26 from January 9, 2013 to November 2nd, 2017 for the last 4 to 5 years. During the marijuana transition, she's legendary. She's been writing the laws for how Colorado should be. That used to be the most liberal laws, but now we have, Vermont's on the verge, so now we got 9 states plus D.C. 9 states plus D.C. has legalized marijuana, but Colorado was first, and Colorado should bankroll on that notion. They were first. They were pioneers. Now, there's 8 other fucking states that could compete for this shit, so, the Steel City, it's helping, 1,000 workers, but what about the Diane Bush? She was a 3-term Colorado State House representative who had just resigned so she could run against Scott Tipton. Diane Bush is a 2-term Routt County commissioner, a former 2-term Routt County commissioner. That's how she got her started, right? Humble roots in a local northern Colorado county. The commissioner is the most powerful man in the county. And there's, 3 of them in Pueblo. I'm not sure how Routt County was, but for 2 terms, she ran Routt County, and then she went to the state house and helped pass laws for the entire state. So a 2-term Routt County commissioner, 3-term Colorado State House representative. She's known for walking the talk. She's a champion for Southern Colorado and the Western Slope, and she'll fight for working class people in Washington, D.C. She earned her Bachelor of Arts in Sociology and her Ph.D. in Social Policy.
Tell us the truth and know what's in a bill before voting for it. Someone who relies on evidence, not ideology, for solutions that benefit all Coloradans. Someone who works across the aisle to make life better for all of us and all our children. I know from my experience in the state legislature that by working across the aisle, using partnerships, not partisanship, we can level the playing field and create more economic and educational opportunities. From my hometown of Steamboat Springs to Durango, from Pueblo to Grand Junction, and everywhere in between. We can strengthen public education, help create good-paying jobs, make high-quality health care available and affordable so that we can all thrive together. My mother instilled in me the value of giving back to my community. She expected
Miss Bush got her degree, a bachelor and a Ph.D. in sociology and social policy from the University of Minnesota. So I think that's where she began, in Minnesota. That's where her awakening was, Bobby Kennedy, and she had been influenced by Rachel Carson's Silent Spring, which also influenced JFK. So she came from that era. She did not want to be called a hippie. She called herself a Democrat. She is by far the most progressive. She seems to me to be the only progressive in this race. And the only progressive, so you had that guy, Carl Hanlon. He's already seemingly running to the right. I haven't focused totally on him, but she is definitely a progressive, and Scott Tipton is a regressive. So Diane Bush is a very attractive representative. The 3rd District would do well. 2016 article, you had Mike Kaufman, you had Scott Tipton, you had Doug Lamborn, all these Republican pieces of shit. Mike Kaufman said the marijuana prohibition wasn't an easy vote given the number of combat veterans, however, dealing with PTSD. Mike Kaufman was willing to give it a try. So Mike Kaufman is Republican out of Aurora, one of the 7 of the Colorado delegation, if you subtract the 2 senators of the representatives. So Mike Kaufman is against marijuana, but since it got legalized, he's essentially like, well, it's here. And now there was a question, May 2016, hey, Mike Kaufman, you have combat veterans dealing with PTSD. Can they have some medical marijuana? Recreation's already fucking legalized. Why wouldn't you just say yes to it? Guess who did say no? Scott R. Tipton and Doug Lamborn, 2 Republicans from Colorado. Scott Tipton said just 1 year ago, marijuana's been legalized for 5 years. 1 year ago, they asked Scott Tipton, hey, you want medical marijuana to go for the veterans? And he said, fuck you, veterans. You don't get no goddamn medical marijuana. So I don't know why anybody normal would give him a B fucking plus. He doesn't think that veterans deserve medical marijuana. What the fuck is up with that? Mike Kaufman, he said that he was willing to give it a try, but not Scott Tipton of Cortez, not Doug Lamborn, Republican of Colorado Springs. They both said fuck marijuana for the veterans. And the reason that they said, and get this, right, Jeff Sessions says it's against the federal law, that's their fucking excuse. That was their excuse. Scott Tipton said, the reason why I don't want veterans getting medical marijuana is because it's against the law, and I don't want to place VA doctors who are federal employees in a position where they could potentially violate federal. One of the delegation, you got 4 Republicans and 3 Democrats, and it's looking really bad for Democrats because Ed Perlmutter and Jared Polis is stepping down, so you only got one incumbent, Diane Bush, who is actually running for her own seat, and then you got 4 Republican incumbents. So the Republicans already control Colorado right now, and it's going to be a bloodbath. So really, none of these Republicans should be left with their office. They should not be in their seat. But let's go to Mike Kaufman. Mike Kaufman actually shows a good stance. Mike Kaufman says, I tend to be more open on alternative therapies. So Mike Kaufman, even though he was against marijuana, he knows he's the representative of the people. You got to fucking speak out for the people. So why would you prevent? Recreational marijuana is legal. So why would Scott R. Tipton want to prevent veterans, combat veterans suffering from PTSD from getting medical marijuana? Statement, you have the rescinded Cole Memo, you had whatever that guy's name was, Jeff Sessions, right, who was going to join the KKK, but then he learned that the KKK smoked weed, which, what the fuck, who knew that? So Scott Tipton, he made the following statement after the Department of Justice announced his plan to rescind the Cole Memo. So Scott the Reg Tipton. The announcement by the Department of Justice is a drastic departure from the Attorney General's previous commitment to Senator Cory Gardner during the confirmation process that he would uphold the Obama administration's treatment of marijuana enforcement and President Trump's comments that he would leave it to the states. Furthermore, it creates even greater confusion and uncertainty by leaving enforcement decisions up to federal prosecutors. The Department of Justice should provide guidance on enforcement of marijuana for states that have voted to legalize it. The people of Colorado voted to legalize marijuana. You have Mike Kaufman, who's essentially saying, look, I'm open for alternative therapies. He's starting to change. He's starting to evolve. 1 year ago, Scott Tipton said the reason why veterans should not get medical marijuana is because it's against the federal law. And since it's against the federal law, we don't want to get our hands dirty. It's legalized here. That's why Bitcoin is on the rise, and they only operate in cash. Know that these fucking banks want to deal with this shit. But it's legal here. It's legal here, and it's working, and it's going to continue to work, and Jeff Sessions is going to fail. So Mike Kaufman is on the right side of history. Scott R. Tipton's been on the wrong side of history, and he is very lukewarm when it comes to his support. I'm committed to defending the will of Coloradans is what he says now. Before he said it's against federal law. So I don't want to put any of the doctors at risk of getting arrested because they prescribed medical marijuana.
It did me to think about others before myself. Showing compassion means that we have a responsibility to make our world better than we found it.
Democrat is already running to the right. He seems to not be a progressive. There's only one progressive in this race. There's only one progressive. When it comes to marijuana, Diane Bush will protect the marijuana industry. She will protect the marijuana industry. She's also will protect net neutrality. She's in favor of universal health care. And she has lots of other good, she's wonderful. She's got so many different bills. She's got a record. For the past 5 years, she's been passing all these different laws. You get a good sense of who she is. It's not clear. I don't think she's liberal or Republican. She's probably a combination of both, just like anybody else. But she's definitely the most progressive. And, it's well known that reality has a progressive bias because those are the correct and true and right ideas. Scott Tipton's been a rep for the past 8 years. What's he done in the past 8 years? He has the same perspective as Jeff Sessions, the federal.
That's what I've worked to do as a public servant since I moved to Steamboat Springs from Minnesota in 1976 and immediately fell in love with a vibrant, friendly, small town along the Yampa River, and I've been working to serve my community ever since. In the 1980s, I started getting involved as a local volunteer, working with ranchers in Routt County. Then I served for 10 years as a rural county planning commissioner, protecting our land, our water, and our property rights. I was elected twice as a Routt County commissioner, serving from 2006 to 2012. I've served on the board and executive committee of Club 20, where I work directly throughout the Western Slope with rural Coloradans on water rights, transportation funding, and affordable housing. My strong work ethic and proven accountability continued when I was elected to represent Eagle and Routt County in the Colorado House of Representatives. While serving in the state legislature,
last year, Scott Tipton and Jeff Sessions was just, dancing. They were dancing in the moonlight. They were just, nice little tango. It takes two to tango. And Jeff Sessions says that it's against federal law, which it is. It is against federal law. But it's a Schedule I substance. It's against federal law, but the U.S. Constitution was designed to be a limiting document to only have certain powers, and then the rest of the powers, the 10th Amendment, goes to the states. And the states have already declared it. The people have already declared it, so that's the essence of a democracy. The people have already voted for marijuana. The people of Colorado have already spoken, and they've spoken over and over and over again. Millions of dollars. Look at all the money. Sessions says that the federal government makes it illegal. Scott, the wretch, Tipton last year said it was illegal, so not even combat veterans, people who go to war, that Scott Tipton sends out to war, and he has never met a war he didn't love. Scott Tipton is a war hawk. There's a bunch of bad things. He's a rank and file Republican. Anything and everything that Trump did can be tacked on with him. He loved Trump even during the Billy Bush weekend. He was so loyal even during the Billy Bush weekend. So everything Trump has done, and he's also been in there for 8 years. So Scott, the wretch Tipton, has a record, but he's against medical marijuana for veterans last year because it was illegal with the federal government, the same argument that Jeff Sessions is making now. So Scott wants to tell me that he's changed. So Scott Tipton's changed his mind. He's evolved, right? He's a better man. Or maybe he's just a fucking Carson's, Silent Spring, Michael Harrington's Other America. She's been influenced by this. She studied social policy, sociology at the University of Minnesota. She has realized it's her privilege. She's had great public schools, libraries, science museums. She grew up with a loving and caring family. She liked when Bobby Kennedy visited the poorest parts of Bush, graduated high school in 68. 68 is when Bobby Kennedy and Martin Luther King were assassinated, the Vietnam War protests, race riots. A lot of shit was going on when she came of age. So Diane Bush has been around. She's smart. She's intelligent. She's got all the credentials in the world. And as far as I know, there's only one progressive in this race for 3rd Congressional District, Colorado. Diane Bush is the anti-Trump. Diane Bush is the progressive antidote to the right-wingers. Trump won Pueblo because he didn't ignore the working class. And Diane Bush is not going to ignore the working class. She's not left. She's not right. She's just correct and progressive and democratic. She is in favor of love, freedom, justice, peace. Diane Bush, and she was very easy to talk to. Give her a call at 970-291-1572. Check her out. So she'll talk to you, and she wants to build trust with her constituents. She actually wants to hear our concerns. So if you live in the 3rd Congressional District, give her a call, 970-291-1572. I think we should just let Diane be Diane. She don't have to run to the right. She don't have to run to the left. Just be herself, and she'll win. She's progressive, clearly progressive. I'm sure she's got conservative views on this or that. She's been known to, work across the aisle, which I don't particularly care about. But she'll be the first progressive representative we've had in quite some time. So we should just let Diane be her progressive Diane Bush self, and she'll win. And we'll actually get some representation here in Pueblo County. So, woo! Diane Bush. Vote for Diane Bush.
I've prioritized helping businesses create jobs by cutting red tape, funding workforce training, especially for veterans,
Uranus is the only planet in our solar system that rolls on its side like a barrel, while Venus is the only planet that spins in the opposite direction to Earth. So Venus is flying backwards, Uranus is on its side like a barrel. That's interesting.
Reducing obstacles for young ranchers and farmers, trying to make health insurance and healthcare more affordable, funding improved transportation, and expanding rural broadband. I've earned the reputation for integrity and accountability, for putting our communities first, for bringing people together with practical solutions.
The atomic bomb, how it works is you get nuclear fission, it produces the atomic bomb. So you need a single free neutron
to the problems we face. We need a representative in Washington who stands up for Southern Colorado and Western Colorado. I've stood up for rural Colorado in the Colorado State Capitol.
Sharks' teeth are literally as hard as steel. Steel, you didn't know that.
I want to bring my experience, my skill at bringing people together and working across the aisle.
The mosquito has 47 teeth. So instead of pulling the teeth out of a black man's mouth and then using it as his so-called wooden teeth, George Washington could have just got some mosquito's teeth. Did he chop down the cherry tree?
To our nation's capital, I will be your strong voice, your strong Colorado voice in Washington. Will you join me?
Lobsters have blue blood. Blue blood, just like the Fugates in Appalachia.